Hello everyone. I thought that today I will do a little bit of a different video and I'm going to show you my storygraph TBR. So this is what it is, then my to read pile, and now with how I organize it and so on. So there are two sections to the TBR pile in the storygraph. The first one is up next, and you can put up to 5 books in that up next category, and I use it normally to make my TBR for the month or my TBR for the next few months. And this at the moment I am recording this at the end of January because I didn't want to show you the books that I will be reading for the booktube prize. So this is a little bit of an example. It's not what I'm going to be reading in February because all of those booktube prize books will be coming in. But I have 5 books here that I want to read, and one thing that I do to organize a little bit the source of where they're coming, if you see here, you can see if I own them or not, and that for me means physically own, and then you can put tags on them. So for example, this one has the tag of borrowed, or this one is an ebook, and so on. You can put those. I think I have borrowed ebook, a library book, and wish list. And I will also be creating a tag for the booktube prize, so that will also be included here, and you can put more than one tag per book. So yeah, that's how I organize the source of the books. And yeah, I have, for example, this one here because I own it and I'm trying to go through my physical books at the moment. And of course, the borrowed books that I have, I want to read as soon as possible so that I can give them back. And borrowed to me means borrowed by someone, from a friend or something like that. Borrowed from the library, I just put library. So yeah, and then the other section is all of the books that I have in my TBR. At the moment, I have 38 books in my TBR in Storygraph, and they are ordered by latest added, but you can also choose to have them earliest added, author names, page numbers, publication date, and title. I wish they had explicitly mentioned when you added it, because even though you can organize them by the date that you added them on, it doesn't say when you added it, or at least I haven't seen it in a very clear way. And I would like to know, for example, to read all of the books that I still have that I added in 2020, something like that. It's not possible at the moment, and I would really like if they will do that. But yeah, anyway, you can still see which ones you added the last. And there is another option here that filters the books by several criteria. The first one is the mood. So Storygraph works a lot with moods. And you can choose it here if you want something funny because you need to laugh or something. You can choose it here. I rarely use this. You also can choose the pace, or if it's fiction or non-fiction, so you can choose what you're in the mood for next in that way. The genres as well, to include or exclude. This one is the one that I use the most, the tags. So if I want to see which books I have borrowed, so that I can keep an eye on them, I can just say borrowed here and filter by that, and then it will show me all of the books that I have borrowed from friends at the moment. Also the page number I sometimes use because if I'm doing a read along or something, or a readathon, I might want to go for shorter books. Or if I'm having a challenge to read a big book a month, then I will choose the 500 plus to see which books I have available that have that requirement. Original publication date you can also filter from. I don't use this either. And here I normally just use I own, but added to my reading challenges is also a good one. I don't use it very often because I don't have at the moment a lot of reading challenges, and normally I add the books to reading challenges as I go. But if you have a list that you created at the beginning of the year and you want to read throughout the year, it's a good thing to have. And yeah, that's a little bit of how it works, the TBR, for anyone that hasn't used storygraph. And I'm going to show you the books that I have in my TBR from the earliest added. I think that makes more sense than the latest. So yeah, I have Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. And again, here you can see which format I have them in. Dancing World by Liz Moore. This had a lot of buzz a few years ago, and I still want to read it. The premise still sounds good. I don't expect too much because it's one of those hype books that might disappoint, but I still want to try it. Ali and Nino by Kurban Said. Trois Femmes Puissantes by Marine Ndiaye. The Body by Bill Bryson. How to Hide an Empire by Daniel Immerwahr. The Story of More by Hope Jaren. Losing Earth by Nathaniel Rich. The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. An African in Greenland by Tete Michel Mpamasi. Hopefully I said that right. Mama's Last Hug by Franz de Waal. Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. Zaytoun by Dave Eggers. Losing Eden by Lucy Jones. Negroland by Margot Jefferson. The Bone People by Kerry Holm. Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. Greenwood by Michael Christie. How Beautiful We Were by Imbulumbue. The Gene by Siddhartha Mukherjee. The Great Indian Novel by Shashi Tharoor. On Time and Water by Lytton Smith. The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Holeburn. The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. Periodic Tales by Hugh Aldersey Williams. Darwin Comes to Town by Menno Schultzhausen. Again, butchered that one, but okay. Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch by Rivka Galchen. Hotel Silence by Adur Abba Olavsdottir. Half a Lifelong Romance by Eileen Chang. Dandelions by Yasunari Kawabata. Territory of Light by Yuko Tsushima. The Joys of Motherhood by Buchi Emecheta. An Apartment on Uranus by Paul Preciado. Generosity by Richard Powers. Turning by Jessica Lee. Le Lyceau du 6 hours and 27 by Jean-Paul Didier Laurent. The Granda Book of the African Short Story by a bunch of authors, because it's an anthology, and The Opposite of Butterfly Hunting by Ivana Lynch. Those are all the books that are currently in my TBR, and as I said, I have at the top here the books that I am hoping to maybe read next month. And there are some reasons for that. So I have An Apartment on Uranus by Paul Preciado because Katie Books is doing a Fitzgeraldo February project, and this one is from Fitzgeraldo. Then Greenwood and Le Lyceau du 6 hours and 27 I have borrowed from Lorraine, from Reading with Lorraine, so I want to give them back to her next time I see her, so I want to read them. The Unseen World is here just because it sounds like a lighter book, so I thought it might be a good one to pick up, but I'm not very sure about that one. And Zaytoun, as I said, I own. It's the oldest physical book I have that I have not read, so I wanted to read it. But I will be adding the Book to Price books here soon, so probably I will not be reading all of this in February. And then another cool thing I wanted to show you, if you go to stats and you select all time, it shows the books that you read all time, but also the statistics of your to read pile. So as you see, I have 38 books in my to read pile, and they're mostly reflective, informative, and challenging. and emotional, which is kind of the same pattern as the books I have read. So it's not surprising. I think it makes sense that the moods that I like to read are the moods that I have in my TBR as well. The pace is a little bit different. I have more slow books in my TBR than the ones that I have read in my lifetime, which makes sense because um, if a book is slow, it's heavier to go for and it's more dense in general. So you have to pace yourself with those, and it makes sense that I have more in my TBR than I have read because yeah, they're slow. So I have to take my time with them. um, the page number again, similarly, it's a similar sort of distribution, but I have less small books in my TBR again because the I gravitate towards them less because they are slower to they're fast. The short books are faster to go through, so I go through them faster than the other types of books. I also have more nonfiction in my TBR. I think you can appreciate from the TBR that I've showed you that there's a lot of nonfiction, especially nature and science nonfiction. And again, those books tend to be a little bit more dense. So even though I really enjoy them, I cannot read 10 non-fiction science books in a month. That would be a bit too much, and I will not be able to appreciate them as much as if I just read them at a slower pace. With genres, literary, science, historical, nature, history, and memoir are the things that are more in my TBR. This varies a little bit from the genres. I think it's also reflecting how my reading has changed throughout the years, and these are the things that I am into the most at the moment. Um, so yeah, and as I said, I have a lot of science and nature books in my TBR, as you have already seen. The format I don't pay attention to. I don't take the time to track that. So yeah, that's a little bit of how my TBR and storygraph looks like, and how I organize my reading. I don't normally use anything else to track my reading or organize my reading. So I hope you enjoy this little sneak peek at my TBR, and let me know if you have seen anything in the books I've showed you that you would really want me to read and review, so I can prioritize those. And until next video, bye!